I have the pleasure of being joined by Miss Karena Evans. Thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me about your work with Snowfall and just kind of get to know you a little bit. You had this statement at ComplexCon that got me got me a little teary-eyed. It was small, but it was like you were just talking about how it's important. You would like to find a way to shine light on like the editors and the PAs and all these people who are so integral to helping you as a director get the best product out. But on that platform to, just kind of use your platform to shine light on the little people.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I believe that it's the truth. I don't think there are, little people. I think every position within the making of the film is crucial to the end product of the film. And so everybody deserves their credit and deserves their props because at the end of the day, the crew makes the film, and it's just merely my responsibility to shepherd that entire crew.
For sure. And I think even in listening to you now, your person is like really connected to your purpose, it seems like, and how you want to impact the world. And obviously you have like a large amount of accolades in your amount of time in the industry, which is great. And you guys can Google that. I'm not going to get into all that. What I really liked, what was my favorite part about you was how in tune you were with how you wanted to use those stories to impact people or bring light into people in a certain way. I mean, from like, especially coming in music video direction, where you have so much creativity, opportunity there. And like, obviously a lot of people know you from your work with Drake. But I just want to know, like, where did like that passion for like wanting to bring light to the misunderstood or the misrepresented come from?
I mean, it's, because it'd probably take them 15 minutes to tell the story, so I'm going to give you the long story short. But, I was as a kid, I was a kid who was fascinated by stories in all different mediums, and that was music videos, film, television, but also fairy tales and fables, the stories that were read to me as a young girl from my mom and my dad before bed. And I think those especially captivated me because it was left up to my own imagination to see and feel what this world looked like and felt like to me. And I think I had a fascination with, film and television and music videos, but there was also a dual discomfort with the way in which I was represented and women were represented and people of color were represented. And I think when I was younger, I couldn't really identify what this discomfort was until I had gotten a bit older and could intellectualize what that discomfort was. And I think as I grew just personally and then also professionally, I wanted to take with me what I loved about fairy tales that were read to me when I was younger. And in my mind, in my imagination, they were inclusive and they were representative. And they were diverse, and I wanted to be able to bring that into every story I got to be a part of telling.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And, speaking of something that has something to say, the show that you were part of, Snowfall, which you actually you got done right before, quarantine really got kicked in. But I realized that was one of your first times directing the television show, and then in contrast with P-Valley, of course, you kind of stepped into a pre-established world, which I know as a music director is, there's less control you have, which is hard. But now that it has been a year, maybe there's been a little bit of time of reflection towards that. Is this something that you would have communicated to yourself beforehand going into Snowfall that you have kind of gained wisdom in now?
I think what I was really understanding in my Snowfall experience was the idea of playing in a sandbox that has already been created, but doing so in a way that still allows me to bring my vision and my heart and my voice to it, while also serving the story and doing so without hindering that telling of the story. And so I think Snowfall was such an amazing place to hone in on that notion, because it's an incredible group of storytellers, like through and through. I feel like the cast are so deep in their characters, mentally, emotionally, and physically, that it was just playtime in that sandbox. You know, like the collaboration was electric, and you know, when it came together, it felt like sparks were created, and they challenged me and inspired me, and I felt like I met them with that same energy, and even more so, because I wanted to push them further than what I had seen. And I think even, you know, the showrunner who, you know, it's his job to run the show. I think Dave Andron, the showrunner, he moves with such clarity and precision and intention when communicating his vision for the season. And then on top of that, I felt he and the other producers had a real sense of trust in me to execute the vision, you know, while bringing my vision and sensibilities to it. And so there was real alignment in that. And I learned a lot from how he led the team. And that's a real empowering space to be in that I believe really yields honest work.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Now the story itself, and I know you grew up in Canada, and I feel like a lot of people, even in America, don't know about the crack epidemic and how the government played a role in that. And I have personally just have a personal connection to the story. So I just love that, you know, the late great John Singleton conceptualized something that he went through. Was there something that you kind of just learned in, you know, rewatching the show and learning about the story that kind of reshaped your view and experience?
I learned so much. I think I was already a fan of the show, and so I'd seen all 3 seasons before speaking to the producers about directing an episode of the 4th season. But then I re-watched in preparation for my episode, just to be completely dropped into the time, place, and emotion of these characters. And I think without any spoilers, my episode was rooted in extreme paranoia. And with that, you're able to see these characters making desperate attempts. And I think, while I learned a lot about the crack epidemic and a lot about LA and a lot about America, I think what it brought me closer to was that human emotion, which is universal. And so it was my job to kind of communicate this heightened sense of chaos and emotion at all times.
Yeah, I would, we got the opportunity to see some screeners, and obviously people will be seeing it soon on February 24th. It was, you captured the paranoia so well, the emotions of it. I was just like feeling frantic, and, you know, learning that was your goal makes a lot of sense now, especially some of the characters we see in a lot more vulnerable way than we probably seen before. So I'm sure that was a fun opportunity for you.
Yeah, it really was. Thank you. And I had a really good time collaborating with Tommy Maddox, the DP. He and I really clicked, and in our first couple meetings, we really dissected what the heart and the story was of the episode, and it really is one that kind of starts at 100% and just keeps going. And so we talked about how the camera needed to move in order to communicate that vulnerability. And I think for me, I wanted it to have a constant energy to it, whether it was still or moving. There was a human-like energy to it. And I think my intention was for the weight of the story to be felt in every single frame, and for the camera to honestly communicate this feeling. And I just felt like Tommy's, or rather he goes by Maddox, his daring eye and his deep sense of story really complemented the vision that I had for it, and that Dave Andron, the showrunner, had for it, and that Leonard Chang, the writer, had for it. And it was like a really beautiful collaboration that kind of flowed like water as we were exchanging ideas.
Yeah, that's and talk about needing to give people behind the scenes love. DPs hold it down on every production. So shout out to Maddox for collaborating with you, because you guys did an excellent job.
Thank
so
you.
moving, of course, no problem. So again, in doing some research, I learned about a new word that I personally did not know about, and I got to check my male privilege in this one, but it's something that you kind of say often, just this term female gaze.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's cool because I actually, I grew up with just a single mom, so I consider myself a feminist and obviously wanting equal opportunity for women. And I, as a man, have a privilege, even though I'm a black male, I have a privilege as a male that I can check and use that platform to share. So I was very happy to kind of like get a little bit of an understanding of what that meant. So in this story, in this Snowfall story, we have some very strong women and characters in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering if, it could be some of the women in the story or some of the men, if any of them kind of reshaped your perspective as a female filmmaker and kind of how you see things and how you share stories.
Throughout the years, I've been able to learn that my power is this idea of the female gaze. But I think with every project that I get to be a part of, and especially on Snowfall with an incredible group of storytellers with really pure intentions, I was really able to more clearly articulate that the female gaze is not limited to the perspective of just a woman. Just like I feel like feminism is not bound to only that of a woman's belief. I think my outlook on the female gaze is rather about rooting the storytelling in her experience and adjusting the lens through which the story is told to portray her truth. And so that's abandoning anything stereotypical or the often weak representations of women and approaching it with honesty. And that, again, is not limited to just the perspective of a woman, but I think with my feminine sensibilities, I was able to grasp that a bit more innately.
That makes a lot of sense. Kind of a little bit in a different direction, but I'm a big mental health guy. And I know that entertainment shapes a lot of like people's popular opinion. And so I think it's important for people to hear stuff like this from people who are in the industry. I know you shared a little bit about the importance for you to find the balance of, soul care, mental care for yourself. Are there moments when you're in the grind of creating, where you have the trigger moments where you're like, you realize, oh, it's time for me to take some time to do some soul care or some mental care? And how would you share with other people to start noticing rhythms like that?
I mean, you mentioned the complex conversation, which was, I feel like 2 or 3 years ago now. And I think my journey with self-care has grown exponentially since that particular time in my life. And I can say with total confidence that everything starts from within. Truly, whether it's the art that you're creating, the story that you're telling, or the life that you're leading, every single circumstance in your exterior life is created first from an interior place, and that starts with how you think about yourself, how you spend time with yourself, how you go within, and how you treat your interior. And so I've been recently finding that my deepest moments of inspiration come when I'm still or meditating or spending time with myself in a reflective, quiet state. And then I'm able to go out into my exterior world with more clarity and more clear intention at that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's so poignant because that's what I've learned as a creative too, that because sometimes the thing that motivates me to get out of bed is, oh, I need to get this done. But sometimes,
Yeah.
and sometimes stepping away for an hour is the hardest thing for me to do. Go out, meditate, go to a park, whatever. But I go away for a minute and an hour and let go of everything, and then come back, and I'm like, oh, I have so much more space, like, to create. So I think it's so
Yeah.
good that you say that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to always be an hour. Sometimes it's just taking 2 minutes for yourself to breathe after an intense phone call, just to return back to a peaceful state of mind, to then move forward and execute what you have to do next with more strength.
Well, perfect. Well, yeah, I will conclude it there. Thank you so much for joining me. I think that, we kind of focus a little bit more on you personally, but I think that as you learn and care about a person and learn about their individual, you will thus care about the work that they produce. And we already know that you're very talented in the work that you do, and the show is really successful. So I think it was a great opportunity for people to learn about where you are now. So, yeah, thank you for being willing to share.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.